So Ross, for people who don't know you, just tell me about this 60-year-old man I have sat in front of me.
Yeah, I spent my first part of my life after school still in education, college, university, trying to prove I could pass qualifications after failing them miserably at school. And then I studied in Canada, and at 24 I had a bit of an injury that turned out to be a lifelong challenge, shall we say. I tore my cruciate knee ligaments and ankle injuries, but it's one part of my life. And I've worked for myself on many different ventures, and I've been employed. I think we met one of the first times at Preston North End when I was commercial manager, and you opened a stand for us.
We did. What a day that was when
Yeah.
I think it was the granddaughter of Bill Shankly
It was.
came along, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
Pauline. Yeah. And so I've done that. And, for the last 10 years, I've been a freelance speaker, trainer, and author. I write children's books. I train people in mindset, mental health, resilience, whatever it is to make somebody a better performer. So that's me at 60, really.
Obviously, you've had your problems because in front of me it's just a former shadow of yourself. You were a big chap, weren't you? What made you want to lose all the weight? What made you come up with a plan?
Yeah, I left that bit out, didn't I? A part of my life and it was only relatively recently, in the last few years, last 3 years in particular, where things were coming to a head. Some things I couldn't control, and sadly my parents were passing away. And at the same time, I was letting myself slide a bit. I didn't know it at the time, but emotionally it was sapping me. And I was working hard, and it was a tough fight, traveling all over, overseas, and doing things and researching at night. And being single on my own is quite good. I've got lots of time, but I probably used too much of it doing that. And so as my parents were passing away, my weight went up, and it went up to an incredible, almost touching 25 stone, which is 160 odd kg. And I'll say it, I was drinking alcohol most nights. I was eating any food just as a stress release. I'd say I was a classic binge eater, not aware of it, but doing it all the time. A little bit of exercise, not too much, and writing books and working hard and worrying about the future. And it precipitated a series of debilitating panic attacks that needed medication. That really, that was a sign for me, a really clear sign that I couldn't carry on. And the doctors were almost expecting something like this to happen. My blood cholesterol was at, I don't know if you know the cholesterol system, but it was like up to 30 millimoles when it should be around 5.
Yeah.
My blood pressure is pretty good now, but then it was pushing up towards the dangerous levels. And I just, with my knees and my ankles, it was just, the pain was incredible. And if I didn't change, it was going to change me permanently.
Right. So what made you change? Was it the fact that, I might not see 60, or was it the medical advice? What suddenly made you snap into
The medical advice, you couldn't ignore it. But in life, we do need sometimes these emotional sort of triggers. And losing my parents, and at the same time moving into a new place, like a new start. And I wanted to feel like a new start. It gave me that platform to sort of start again. And so with the medical advice to say, you drastically need to do it. And my orthopedic surgeon said, lose a shed load of weight. And he said, I'm not going to put a figure on it, just lose a load. And so having a sanctuary, a base, saying goodbye to my mum and dad, and then doing my research on how I could do this over the long term, not the short term.
Has it been a long haul?
If you want to put time in it, 3 years, and it's not over. It's going to be, when people talk about diets and they say it's not a good word, and they replace it with lifestyles. And I've had a lifestyle now for the last 3 years that I not just intend to keep, I have to keep, because my body works better. I'm more functional. I can go out and do stuff. And when I do my training, it hurts during the day, and I take occasional sit downs and recover a little bit. But I couldn't have done that 3 years ago. So for me, there is no choice. And that's where motivation is easy, because you've got to do it.
Anybody watching this, 25 stone, losing 10 stone, down to 15 stone, they say, whoa, how can I do that? But you've just mentioned motivation. What motivated you to do it?
Yeah, motivation for some people is always in the forefront of the mind. Some people it's quite fleeting, it comes and it goes. And I think expectations and planning are linked to it. So if our expectations are very high and we want something immediately or relatively immediately, we're probably going to be disappointed. So if you set your stall out having some sort of short to medium term goals, have your eye in the future long term, but just concentrate on the here and now and don't try and overreach too soon. So for me, that was about every week having the right sort of foods, doing the research. I introduced quite a few fasts. So at night time, I found when I had the panic attacks, my stomach was getting upset quite a lot. So I found if I stopped eating around 5 and 6 o'clock at night, went to bed and did some exercise in the morning, that gave me a window of about 16 hours. And it worked in terms of calories, not consuming it. It worked in terms of better sleep. And it worked in terms of my stomach being more calm. So the fasting with the right foods, the obvious cliche stuff that people hear all the time is vegetables. I have a NutriBullet to do some raw vegetables, eating less and cutting out the alcohol. I stopped alcohol for the last 3 years, which is a massive impact on me.
It sounds like you come up with a plan. How many points were in that plan, would you say?
I worked around 5, having a sanctuary to start with, moving house, looking at my diet and studying about it. Increasing and varying my exercise to accommodate the pain and inflammation. Then doing some short-term planning, which was important to me, but getting the support of people around me, like-minded people who weren't going to trip me, weren't going to pressurize me, but were going to support me in different ways. And I think that accountability is something that I thrive on. And I don't respond much to bullying or pressure or you must do this like military style. I like to sail my own ship, but I like to have some supporters as well.
And those supporters, did they come forward and give you that motivation?
They're still doing it to this day. And again, we've just been going through, transitioning through COVID. So, there's lots of social media connections there. But I'm starting to see people in the flesh these days. And I was swimming in the Ribble this morning with a friend of mine and doing some wild water swimming. And I do some other stuff, where I can get out and about. And the gym's always great for me. And I can meet people and do stuff there. But yeah, and I think I'm looking forward to a bit more of a social framework on that rather than an exercise framework to actually just get that feedback. But I'm not very good at taking compliments, and it's a strength and a weakness. I don't take the highs and I don't see the lows. And everybody keeps telling me you've done fantastically well given what you've been through and living on your own and doing your own stuff. But motivation, you can get it, and anybody can do what I've done. Anybody. Particularly
during lockdown, because a lot of us working from home, we were reaching out for the biscuit tin, weren't we? I mean, how did you not? Was it a temptation to eat and nibble during the day?
It's a good question, and I'll frame it in a bit wider sense. I'm not perfect, and I have my moments where I can have what I call now a mini binge, not a full binge, a mini binge, and that mini binge could be a few biscuits, it could be a few crisps, but it doesn't carry on for more than a day, where it used to carry on for months. It's not fueled by alcohol, which makes you eat more and feel worse the next day, and I accept when I do that, and I'll know when I'm going to do it when I'm tired, when I'm aching, when I'm a bit bored. Those 3 things, when they come together, especially at a weekend when I'm just a bit quieter, that's when I'll be on my guard to watch out for it. But I do give in to it sometimes, but I don't give it for too long. So I'm not perfect, but I think some people, they're always having these false starts, and false starts, we know, can tear away your motivation. All the books I've read on willpower and why power, you've got to be able to have a bit of a plan, understand your emotional triggers. And I'm very much aware now what's upsetting me before it's actually upset me. And I think that's people need to play with a bit more.
What would you say to anybody watching this? What advice would you give them?
Advice is a good word. I don't often use it. I tend to listen to people and I understand where they're coming from, but don't think too long term. See if you can change something today, okay? See if you can manipulate your food a little bit, because food is a common cliche that if you want to lose weight, 4/5 of it is around food and 1/5 maybe around exercise. But you've got to have the opportunity I had a sanctuary, but the opportunity in terms of work that you're not thrashing, doing loads and loads of hours all the time, but something you can work within, where you've got a measure of control, you can make some small changes on diet. I'd reduce or eliminate the drink at least for a month to start off with, give yourself a clean slate. Try some fasting. You can't get enough vegetables. Be careful on the fruit because they've got natural sugars in them. Obviously the water, but I found with me, when I want to get the extra marginal gains, it's about not getting too stressed, not getting too specific on losing an inch here or doing this, just accepting it. We're playing the long game now. And I think some people can't get into that mindset.
I've known you many years, Ross, and I think you're a bit of a workaholic. I mean, how do you stop that?
Yeah, and it took me a long time to work out that doing more is not always better. And I've got better at recognizing that. So I do cut myself off, and I do feel a little bit guilty, but not as guilty as I used to be. So I work at my week, and I look where the gaps are, where I can have a bit of downtime. And I watch some rubbish on TV, Doc Martin or something like that, where there's no swearing, no aggression, just nice and placid, and hopefully no adverts. But I do recognise that. And it's all about contrast and distraction. Because anybody, if you keep studying, you will wear yourself out. If you keep training and training people over and over again, you will wear yourself out. So I've got better at being aware of that, but I've still got a long way to go on it as well.
Final question. Can anyone do what you've done, do you think?
If they've got some resources, not much, they've got some support, they've got some sort of awareness of their emotional triggers, and they've got a rough idea where they want to be in a couple of years' time, okay, roughly, because it might take that long. And if they've got the patience and a little bit of knowledge, not much, you don't have to buy into all these programs. All the stuff that I'm doing now to support people is free. You don't need to spend money on that. So anybody can do it, but you've got to have a bit of staying power. And today's society, we don't seem to have that bit of, not just resilience, adaptability, but staying power is a good phrase. And it's been around for a long, long time. I think sometimes we're too quick to get off the bus, and we need to go on that journey a bit longer.